Good morning, everybody. Thank you for jumping online for Leverage Technologies 2021.2 upgrade highlights. Today, you've got myself, Dean West. Some of you will know me, others won't. My prime role is to work with some of our newer customers in introducing you to the product and to the leverage services, and then I hand over to the implementation team and they do the implementation and support side of things. We've also got Jeff Patch, one of our senior systems architects at Leverage Technologies. Many of you will have already interacted with Jeff over the years. Welcome, Jeff. Thank you for giving us the time this morning to do this webinar. He's going to do the bulk of the work, which was very smart of me. But it'll be much better for that than you listening and watching me do this. So just some basic housekeeping. And just before we move on, Jeff, are you seeing my screen at the moment, the PowerPoint?
Yes, I'm seeing your screen, Dean.
Perfect. So just by way of welcome and to reinforce a couple of things, we are recording. You will get access to that at a later stage in the week. Questions can go into the Q&A area of the Zoom app. We will try and get to some of them at the end. We may not get to all of them, depending on time, but we will be reaching out to discuss them if you discuss and answer those questions. The last thing we will be sending out is a copy of or a link to the MYOB Advanced release notes. Some of that's a little technical, so don't be too concerned if it doesn't all make sense, but what it will give you, as Jeff will show you later on, is the highlights of what's new in the product. And if there are things which we won't cover today, and there will be a lot of them, you can that you're interested in, you can reach out to our support desk to get some more information. In today's session, we're going to cover 5 or 6 main things. We're going to talk about the upgrades and improvements to bank transaction matching. For distribution clients, we're going to talk about the new upsell cross-sell functionality, which is really exciting. For those people in the manufacturing space, we'll talk about the enhancements and the introduction of the new manufacturing visual scheduler. For people who are running warehouses with a warehouse management solution inside MYOB Advanced, we'll talk to and show you elements of the paperless picking solution that's been released, which is a real enhancement to the platform. For those who run project accounting in combination with inventory, there's been some changes in that space that we think will be interesting. We'll go through some of those. And then for those who run field service operations, there is some improvements in the way you can create field service documents from opportunities and projects, and we'll run through some examples there. Finally, if there are any questions later on, feel free to reach out through our standard contact details, 1300 045 046 and myobhelp@leveragetech.com.au, or to any member of the MYOB Advanced team at Leverage Technologies. They will be able to steer you in the right direction. So that's enough of me gabbing on. I'm going to hand over to Jeff, and he's going to do the hard work for this morning. So thank you, Jeff. I'll leave you to take over the screen share and start the session.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear. So I'm going to move through the topics as Dean mentioned. First of all, I'm going to go over some banking. There are a number of enhancements to this bank reconciliation area. And the main one I want to go over is what's called basically being able to take one entry on the bank statement side of things and match it to multiple payments from multiple customers on the other side. So this can happen, and it happens quite frequently when you're dealing with, say, you're taking credit card payments during the day, and then the next day you get one line entry for all those credit card payments in your bank statement, and you want to reconcile that to basically multiple payments you'll receive. So here I've got a line here for my Visa card entry, and I'll just minimize that over there. And what I want to do is match it to payments. And I say I want to match to multiple payments there. So it's come back and it's given me these multiple payments over here. I may have an advice from the bank, or maybe it's a PayPal or something like that, or a website which tells me what invoices have been paid. But in this case, I'm going to start matching these off here, and it'll just keep track of what's not been matched off up the top there. And now I've matched off those 3 entries there from different customers. I've got a hair salon, Highfield Computer Services, and Star America Imports. So I can match those off there in just one go. Even further to that, if there's credits in that list as well, you can just mark that off, and then you can take up those credits as well. So that's nice. That's handy there. Now there's 2 other items here that I want to touch on as well, which are further enhancements. This one up here is basically a negative write-off. You weren't able to do this previously, but now we can do this as part of the bank reconciliation. Say if somebody, in this case, they paid $501, they rounded something up. And so what I'm doing here is a negative write-off here of -5 cents, and using the write-off processing there. And the last one I want to touch on is this one here, where we can enter basically finance charges as part of the bank reconciliation. And in this case, I've actually got my invoice is actually that I'm actually matching to is $2,375.34, but the payment amount was $2,355.34 because there's a $20 charge there. So we can take that up at that one time there. So those 3 are quite useful. Your accounting desk will actually like those 3. I'm going to move on to now what's called the upsell, cross-sell, and substitution area here. So I think most people are familiar with upselling and cross-selling and substitutes and alternates and that sort of thing. So MYOB have introduced this function where we can have what's called related items. So here I've got a laptop. Okay, so when I sell that laptop, I may include some other things in there. And in this case, I'm selling some consulting services, and I've made that as required. So if you sell that laptop, you have to sell the consulting services. But I've also got some other cross sells here of a keyboard and a mouse pad, which is a premium article. I've got some options. So I've got a 1 terabyte hard disk drive. And then I have a popular one here, which is a standard mouse. If I wanted to, I could actually upsell the laptop to a higher spec laptop. Or if the person didn't, but if you were out of stock of this particular laptop, then I've got a substitute there. So we've got a lot of flexibility here in terms of this tagging here, and this is just to give the salesperson more information, and you can pick those out, and you can change these items that you're going to associate with this item. We've got different quantities here as well required, and whether or not it's active, and as well as that, you can put it in for a period of time as well. So you have effective dates and expiration dates. How does that all work? Okay, so if I'll create a new one here. I've got a few items here. Choose our customer. Oops, sorry. I went too quick. And then we just choose the items as we normally choose here. In this case, I've got, I'll go to this item first. This is another item with related items on it. And we'll get a little button here that actually basically tells us that there's substitute, upsell, or other items on this. And if we want to select any of those items, we just click on that. And then we can actually say, well, I want to add this promotional item in here, add and close. And it's just added that into that row there. If I add another laptop in here, so this was for one of my staff, this may be for myself, it's more of a premium one. And it'll come back as well and tell us that, oh, there is some items here. Now, one of those items is a required item. That's why it's colored red for us. And we'll just go into here. And if we want to, we can choose the these cross-sell items. So we're going to take the mouse and everything like that. We're not going to do anything else on the substitutes and the upsells, and we might take the promotional item as well. These substitute and upsells will replace that item. And this will add those rows in there that we wanted there. Okay, oh, I missed one. Okay, so I'll make sure I got that in there and that in there, and take it from there. So this is quite useful, and we've used it for obsolescence and other things like that as well. So it can be quite handy, and somebody buys a particular item, then you may want to sell other items with that, and they may be required items as well. If you buy this particular article, then you need to buy some hoses or something that goes with it. So that's it for the upsell and the cross-sells. I'm going to move on now to basically what I'm going to move on to is the production side of things. So here's my production. What they've introduced now is a visual scheduler. So in the past, you had this scheduling capability here. So you can schedule by work center, and basically it's a tabular form of all the scheduling that's occurred. With this release, they've begun the introduction of basically a visual scheduler. So here I've said I want to look at all my regular orders in a particular date range. It's giving me the production orders in this area. I'll just collapse that bit here. And if I want to, I can, and this is a list of all the production orders that satisfy the criteria above. And this shows over here okay, I'll just change that to work center coloring. Okay, and this shows me graphically how those production orders are scheduled. If I want to, I can change it to the time scale, look at hours, then I'm looking at the hours of it, and that sort of thing. If I click on any of these, I hover over it, it gives me all the details of it. If I go into here, I can basically start rescheduling it. I can link operations together. So you've got predecessors and successors. You can change the time, all of that sort of thing. Change the date. And then down the bottom, it is actually giving me a view of the work centers and the machines as well. If you have machines turned on here. but it's actually giving me a capacity. It's showing me the capacity of those and how much capacity is used on those particular work centres. So not only is it scheduling it, it's also you're looking at the capacity. But if you're running scheduling, it's going to take into account that capacity anyway and build it out. You can see here, I've actually got this set up with lunchtime break here as well. So they started at 7, they finish at 3:30, and you can see here it's got 8 hours those days, those times. Lunchtime, there's nothing available. Over here, I only needed to use 1 block. And I've got it set up for half-hour blocks, but you can change those block sizes. So it's quite useful from a practical point of view and a management point of view. We'll just move on now. I'm going to move on to the paperless picking. So with this release, the 2021.2 release, they've introduced paperless picking into the sales area. So previously we had batch picking, wave picking, single picking, but this is actually they've changed the way that the devices, the application interacts with the user. So we don't really need to print out a pick list now. So with this, I'll just go through this process here. I'm going to create a single pick list, single shipment pick list here. And I'll just process that. What this does is it actually puts it into the print queue, puts that particular item into the print queue. And then you can manage that in terms of who it actually goes to. You can actually assign it to a particular picker, or you can let the system actually, based on the picker's location, determine who it gets assigned to. Okay, now if I bring up, I've got a little emulator here for this. So I've got warehouse management set up here, and we go to the picking side of things. I'm just going to get my barcode working here, scanner. I think we'll be right now. Okay, so what we can do here, we don't have to say tell it what shipment we're picking. We can just say next in the list. So the person can just touch that. And it's going to ask me for my location. And I'll just scan that. So I've scanned my location. Oh, let me just do that again. And it's automatically brought up that. And now I've just got to scan my tote. All this should be available. The location is usually will be on your. So I've scanned my location, and now it's going to ask me for the items that I'm picking. It's already picked one, that chosen the first one. Okay, and then it goes to the next item in the pick list and does that one, and then it goes to the next item. Then all the user has to do is just go finished and next, and the picking is now complete, and they can move on to the next pick that's in their list. Okay, so that's a significant change in the mobile app, and it's looking forward to using that at sites. If we look at our shipments now, that shipment will now be confirmed, and then it will go on to the next step. And here it is here, shipment 950 has been confirmed. Okay. So what I'm going to go over to now is called project inventory. In the past, when you had inventory and you wanted to assign that to a project, what you had to do is you needed to basically set up locations for each project. And if there was a lot of movement, a lot of tasks on your projects, a lot of projects, it meant there was a lot of administrative overhead in being able to use these locations for all the different projects that you had in play. That option is still available. It's called track by location. So they've introduced this new field here. So you can say, how do you want to track your projects? How do you want to track the inventory on that relates to projects? So you had track by location. But now what we have is got track by quantity, and we have track by quantity and cost. On this particular one, I've said track by project quantity and cost, because what I want is I want to keep that inventory that I've purchased for this project separate. I want to keep it in terms of the costing. I want to keep it separate so that, and no one else can take it. So when you say tracking, it means that you can't go and sell this inventory for a different purpose. Okay, I'll put it aside for that project. So now we can do it by location, by quantity and cost. And this will keep those costs separate. This will not keep costs separate. And this will not keep costs. This you can keep the costs separate as long as you mark the location as costs separate. Once we have that set up, and for that project, we can create a purchase order. I'll just click here, create a purchase order for that particular project. And as long as I nominate the project on the purchase order, I'll be fine then. Okay, so I'll just go here, choose that, add some items here. Keep it simple. And just choose a couple of items there, add and close. Okay, and I need to obviously nominate the project and the task. The project here as well. And this, remove the whole. I'm going to quickly process this purchase order here, enter the PO receipt. And this will put this stock into inventory, but allocated to the project. So you can't actually go and use it. You can't go and sell it for other than that project. And we just release that. Now, the nice thing about this one as well is if you already got stock on hand, but it's not allocated to the project, you can just go and perform a transfer to that project. So I've got one here half set up here. So I'm actually taking stock out of my general stock and moving it to this project. So if I do here 11 and 20 and then just release that, Okay, now if I click on here, you'll actually see down the bottom that it actually tells me I've got 23 on this project, 23 of that item. But if I click over here, if I just go and add another one here. Sorry. Just go back. If I click back here, you'll see that there's actually 839 in general. If I click here, and then there's a different quantity over here. The last area I want to look at is basically opportunities in field service. Up till this current release, if you wanted to use field service, you weren't able to incorporate it into opportunities and opportunity quotes. You could go into the field service area, you could go into a sales order area and create field service items, but you couldn't actually do an opportunity that related to, say, a substantive field service related opportunity. With this release, you can. So in this particular instance, I've created a new opportunity here. And against that opportunity, I've put a time-based field service item here. I've already created the quote here. Sorry, clicking the wrong button there. I've already created a quote with that on there. Once the quote's been accepted, what I can then do is turn this into basically being able to create a service order here. So I'll just choose this. I won't bother with the SLA and things like that, and we can then just go and create the service order, or we can go directly and create the appointment. So that's a significant enhancement into the opportunity area for those of you that are in the field service area.
Thanks very much, Jeff. That's covered the content that we were planning to go through today, and right on time, which is excellent. We do have one question from Ben, who's asked about third-party software or hardware requirements for paperless picking. So Ben, just to clarify, it uses the same app that you can use on your mobile phone. However, we do recommend a barcode scanning device which can run an Android operating system for two reasons. One is the barcode scanning is quicker and more reliable, and the second is the devices tend to be more robust than a mobile phone. So hopefully that's answered your question. If you've got any other questions or thoughts, we can absolutely talk to you about that in more detail. So that brings us to the end of the session. Just to highlight some of the other aspects that have changed in the platform, Jeff's showing right now all of the, I guess, table of contents of the new release notes. Some of these, as I said earlier, are a little technical. Others are really quite user-focused. So by all means, we'll send out a link via email to these release notes and you can have a read. If you have any questions that come out of those, please call us. We'd be happy to discuss. What options there are, what things that might suit you.
Just focus on the table of contents in the release notes. Then you can basically just, there may be half a dozen things there that you can just drill down on. Otherwise, it's you'll be just reading a lot of things that are not that useful. It's quite lengthy. It's a couple of 100 pages.
It is quite lengthy. All right, so Dan asked a question about API. Dan, we'll take that one offline. Dan Hardison, we will reach out to you over the next few days and have a conversation with you about that. Kath Munro has asked about service documents. Yep, we will contact you, Kath, to discuss that in your circumstances. And that's the end of the session today. Thank you very much. It's been fantastic to have you all online. Thank you, Jeff. You did a great job. Hopefully everybody got something out of it. And if you have any more questions, reach out through the support channel and we'll do our best to answer them. Thanks and goodbye.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.